the Millennium Development Goals or the development agenda, energy was not on the table. So the Secretary General did the bold move to say, okay, group of you, put this issue on the table because it is real. It was not a crisis issue, but it was just not fashionable then. So we're very grateful to be here. One of our wishes has already been fulfilled because we were saying to ourselves, if we can get a government to just back us to lead this, and voila, the Norwegians came to the call, and indeed we're here to look at Energy Plus. So what have we done? We've tried quickly to put 10 messages together and 3 next steps. I assure you that the many ideas you had, we had a number of people around the room already collecting those ideas to feed into the Secretary General's initiative on sustainable energy for all. So we just took 10 messages, can look at them as a big picture messages that we want to take forward. Number 1, I hope I'm using this technology properly. There you go. Energy is a critical enabler. Universal access to modern energy services underpins human well-being and economic development. That's a truism, it's obvious, but we felt we needed to emphasize that. An important enabler. Universal access to affordable, reliable and sustainable energy services by 2030 is both financially and technologically achievable. The UN Secretary General's Sustainable Energy for All initiative provides an excellent opportunity to catalyze action by all stakeholders towards this end. Number 3, finance will be raised from a combination of sources: the private sector, developing country governments, official development assistance, and multilateral development institutions. Climate finance could provide additional finance. All energy sources. Before I say this, let me just give a little footnote on the last one. In what we said here, number 3, we're going beyond just the aid model. This is not about charity. This is not about aid. This is business models. If you want to really have universal access to energy, we need business models for scale up. That's what we're emphasizing here, beyond just the normal aid model. All energy sources and technical solutions must be utilized to reach the goal of universal access whilst aiming to make the energy mix as economically, socially, and environmentally sustainable as possible. There is a large untapped potential for using renewable energy resources in many developing countries. Here again, we want to give a footnote. This is not a debate about renewables versus fossil. I think you heard it from many ministers today. The poor don't care about the color of the energy. They want energy. My mother in Kitchum in Sierra Leone does not care about the color. She needs energy to cook. But we see a potential here for transformation. We see a potential for renewables. We see renewables can be used for community energy access even before the grid arrives. So it's not either or, it's all systems. For us, this is an important message we think we collected from here. Government commitment and supportive policies are vital for success. Key factors are strong governance and regulatory frameworks that seek to minimize political and economic risks and encourage investments, as well as strengthen capacity of national and local institutions. Again, here we have a footnote. You connect this with number 3, private finance. Businesses want stable policies, predictable, stable policies. Energy systems, I think Helga Lund mentioned that today. When they look at investment, these big companies that we really want to come in, they're looking at investments that are going to last for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. They don't want government changing their mind in 5 years. These policies must be stable and predictable and good enablers. I think my brother from Ghana said it today. Governments changed over 20 years in Ghana, but one thing did not change, the drive for energy access. That gives confidence to the private sector. So again, governments, there is responsibility, but here also, we're also emphasizing the commitment from developing country governments. That enabling condition does not come from the World Bank or the UN. It's local action. Making that commitment, setting the goals and the target. How many of your people do you want to connect in the next 5 years or 10 years. There needs to be also some ambition. Because we know from the private sector, the projects are too small, no can do. But here again, we have another footnote, the regional cooperation. Some countries are too small to attract, but some of the renewable resources are in one location, but demand centers are elsewhere. So here, this is a loaded, number 5, is loaded about government action at many levels. Private sector has a pivotal role to play, encompassing a range of actors, from local entrepreneurs, manufacturers, and international and domestic project developers, to international banks, local banks, microfinance institutions, and foundations. To embellish this a little bit, Christine, thank you very much for raising the issue. Energy projects of scale are not cheap to design. The feasibility study costs money. The commercial justifications, all the designs you have to do cost money. If you're talking about one solar panel on the roof, it's a different question. If you're talking about 50 megawatts, you need engineering design. You need quite a bit of cash, but also the seed money for the entrepreneurs. Number 7, there is no significant financial barrier to increasing access to clean cooking facilities. This is a truism. We know the technologies, we know it doesn't cost a lot of money to make those cook stoves, clean cook stoves available. Policies and other actions should target the poorest. Now this is true, but I know the Indian minister and others had a problem with this word poor. The footnote I want to make here, we need to go beyond, even if we're targeting the poor, let's go beyond one solar panel on the roof. I think you heard a lot of messages today that in the village, we want a quantum of energy that changes the productivity of the village. Energy to pump water, energy for lighting, but also energy for the health clinic. So something that also lifts that community and gives them economic means. So we talk about energy for productive uses. We wanted to emphasize this because we see some well-meaning people, for example, come to Africa, put a few solar panels on the roof, and voila, we're giving them light. They're still poor. You're shining light on poverty. We want that light, but we also need some energy to enhance productivity within that community. Number 9, the International Energy and Climate Initiative, Energy Plus, was launched with the aim of reducing risks and enabling a better environment for private and commercial investments in energy access. Here again, we can't stop saying thank you to Peter, the government, and everybody for doing this. We were wishing that some governments would step forward to do for energy what they did for forests. And so for us, this is the beginning. We want many more governments to step up. By the time we get to Rio, we want to see commitment, billion-dollar commitments. I think my boss, the Secretary General, was giving me a target 40 to 50, 60 billion. Then we leave Rio knowing that we're serious about sustainable development. So this is the beginning of a long march, but we thank you for this leadership and all the other initiatives that will support this Energy Plus. Number 10, all stakeholders have an important role to play in achieving universal access by 2030. We know it's doable. We need many actors, and we are very confident that with your support, many of you here, NGOs, governments, donor agencies, and so on, multilateral institutions, that we can do this. What are the next steps? We just listed 3 immediate political ones because that's important. As I said, it was not easy even 2 years ago to put energy on the development agenda. So here, number 1, universal access to modern energy should be an important input to the COP process and Rio Plus 20 processes. We've said it's an enabler. We know that 64 to 70% of greenhouse gas emissions come from energy systems. We need an energy revolution. I know here we're talking about energy for the poor, but there are other messages about energy that we believe applies to OECD countries and others. That's why the Secretary General and the Prime Minister mentioned a lot about efficiency and renewables earlier today. The energy revolution we need to deal with climate change, a lot of it has to do with rich countries. How we use energy, how we produce energy. So some of those investments in research and development that some people were calling for today, we need an energy revolution. And so we want to take these messages to COP and to Rio Plus 20 As Steve was here, the South Africa group, we were already talking about how we take this message forward to Durban. Number 2, next step, universal access to sustainable, affordable, and reliable energy should be included in the discussions on the reformulation of the post-2015 Millennium Development Goals. I assure you that UNDP, Rebecca was here, they got that message. We're already setting up an advisory group to begin to look at, as we formulate Millennium Development Goals Plus, or whatever we call them, Sustainable Development Goals, that this time, energy will not be left out. We have already formulated what the Secretary General called today 3 targets. Already we're testing those around the world to make sure that when we begin a real discussion in New York about what the successor arrangement should be for MDGs, that energy is not forgotten this time. Number 3, participants are committed to convey the summary to the G20 summit in Cannes, the COP17 summit in Durban, and Rio +20 summit in Rio de Janeiro. All of us have to make this happen. All of us have to make sure that the wonderful ideas we have here really have a life. That we take them forward, we get them to those ministers of finance that really have the cash in the developing countries that set the economic agenda. If the Minister of Finance or Planning Minister does not help us put energy in central to the development plans and strategy, our efforts will just be sidelined. So these are the key messages and next steps. I hope we have covered them well. Be rest assured nothing is left out, because we needed this conference to begin to give real inputs into the Secretary General's action agenda. On behalf of participants, we thank you, Peter, and your team and the government for hosting us here. Thank you very much.